Welcome to another great session of Equipment Zone webinar trainings. We are delighted, thrilled, fired up to have one of the masters of Photoshop, Dane Clement from Great Dane Graphics, from daneclement.com, from Stalls, and I don't know if it's Grupo. I can't ever get that right with the little young in. Is it Italian? Is it European? What is this? It's not a
I don't
group
know.
anymore. It's a
Just
group
got
with
an
an
E
E.
at the end.
I love it. But we're glad you're here. Thank you for spending some time with us. Tons of folks are fired up after the first session. For those of you who missed the first session, that recording is on our website. So go to Equipment Zone, and on our homepage, you will see webinar series, and you can click on that to find previously recorded webinars. You're 2 or 3 clicks away from watching session 1 if you missed it. This is session 2. Dane's going to go a little deeper. He's going to give us more tips, more training, more suggestions, more guides to do this and don't do that as it relates to Photoshop. If you're a DTG printer, Terry, could there be any session more important than this as it relates to getting killer graphics onto apparel?
Absolutely not, because it's all about the graphics. That's what separates one director operator from the next. It's just the graphics.
Yeah, and so that's one of the things that we probably honestly don't spend enough time on this subject, is the emotional connection of the graphic. Yes, there are differences with the t-shirts. You know, people get excited about t-shirts, but not nearly as excited as they get about that graphic. So that's going to be a big deal. So Dane, if you're ready, enough chit chat already. We welcome everybody that's tuned in. And I am recording this. I've triple checked, and we've got Terry to watch the chat. So I'm going to turn off my video and then turn this over to you. You should be able to screen share, but why don't you double check?
Here we go. Host disabled attendee screen sharing.
See, that's why we triple check.
That's why we wait till we're live.
That's right. We want to make sure that you got all of this good stuff. Okay, why don't you give it a shot now, my friend?
All right, share screen. Now we're talking. So I am going to share this screen here, I think. We'll do that. We close this. If you guys can tell me if you can see a Photoshop background here, we're being business.
Not yet. We saw a blink.
Uh-oh.
I saw it blink, and then I see you again in that amazing studio.
All right, let's try this one more time. Do this, hit share. I've only done this 100 times. How about now?
There it is. Woo!
Yeah.
Success.
Yay.
Hooray.
All right, so before we jump right in, a couple of things. You mentioned, you being Jay, talked about graphics and the importance of graphics in DTG printing. And that's 100% truth, right? I hear so often, my graphics just lay there and dead on the shirt. They don't have any punch. They're not doing this. They're not doing that. Talked about a couple of those things and how to punch it and what kind of color profiles to use in our last session. So if you didn't see it, you might want to go check that out. But the most important thing to me is the style of graphics, right? So we're in Photoshop today. We're working with raster artwork. Raster art has much more bang, punch, stylistic capabilities than vector does. I know vector, you can, texture, and you can put gradients and all this sort of thing. We do it too. I understand 100%. But if you put side by side something printed off of a DTG printer and look at the one that wows people, it's the raster file. So I'm going to show you how to mess with that today. And a quick little note, I'm going to be using a file here in a few minutes from an actual attendee of our first part 1 we did last week. He sent me the file. He was struggling with how to take this thing off of a black background. That's some of the stuff that you must know how to do in order to print on a DTG printer. You have to have a white background or your artwork on a transparent background so you can print a white background underneath the art file, right? So we're going to use his actual job file here in this webinar today. So along with some other things. So let's get busy here. So I'm going to go to File menu. Let's go ahead and open. You know what? Before I do that, I'm going to cancel this really quick. And I want to move this over. I'm going to go to File New because this is the most important thing. So I got to show it. I showed it in the first version or our first webinar. I want to show it again. When you go to File New, in order to print something with the proper resolution, is you have to fill out this data. So I'm going to do really quickly here. When we create our artwork for Great Dane Graphics, everything we do is at 14 inches by 14 inches at 300 pixels per inch. I always create my artwork in RGB color mode. I want to make sure my background contents are transparent, 100% on that. And my color profile, if yours stops here and there's no advanced options, go ahead and twirl that little sucker down, click on the color profile and find yourself Adobe RGB 1998. That's a personal preference of mine. That allows my blacks to print black. It allows my colors to be vibrant and rich. You just test it out. You can use the ones that your manufacturer might recommend, you know, Epson or whatever. But I find if you use that one, your prints look way better. So I'm going to go ahead and X out of this for now, and I'm going to open a file because we're going to show how to do some stuff. Desktop, here we go. So let's start with some image editing first, right? So I'm going to open this. Actually, I'm going to open this one, and I'll do that one next. So if any of you guys have seen my seminars, you've probably seen this image. And the reason is I like to use this image because it's a really common occurrence. So somebody says, hey, I want to print this thing on you know, my printer or whatever. Actually, everything that we're going to talk about today, except when I remove things off backgrounds, that's not completely necessary for dye-sub. But all the Photoshop tools, tricks, and other things that we talk about in this DTG class translates completely over to dye-sub, right? It's totally, because you have to make your artwork look the best it can look from the beginning. So there's obviously problems with this image, right? So one way that we can fix this is say, if I would remember, on screen is the best it will ever look, first off. So if I decide to print this, you'll never see anything underneath these hats. So in order to fix that, we're going to go to the image menu, adjustments, and I'm going to go to levels. Inside this menu right here, excuse me, this is what I call Photoshop's Corvette engine. There's a lot of power in this menu. Excuse me. So what I did was I just went to levels, and what I want you to do here is look at this ramp, right? This is called a histogram. This tells us there's a lot of shadows and midtones in this image and very little highlights in the image. Now, I know that I have blacks completely because it spikes all the way to the top here on the shadow side. And I know there's white because the sky is what caused the problem in the first place. That just made everything in front of it, you know, in silhouette, which we can fix. So if you grab this mid-tone triangle here, and it's the mid-tone if you by just looking at the grayscale bar at the bottom. Grab the mid-tone triangle and push it towards the ramp, and look what happens. See that? So when you do this, you open up those shadow areas, and then now I can hit OK, and you can work through some other tips and techniques and tricks and make this thing optimized so it looks super cool. But if you have an image that you start off with, I see that kind of thing a lot. People say, well, I have this image, it's all I have, but it's terrible. That's how you fix it. So let me do one more of those really quick. This ale house, this was a fun one for, whoops. I don't know why I have guide rules in here. Don't need them. But this was taken, I took it, you know, in a pub, and Terry was not even with me. And that's the truth. This is in London. So you weren't this one, Terry. I'm just saying.
That's crazy, man.
So this is how we fix it, right? Same thing. Go to image menu, adjustments, go to levels, and here's the histogram. You can see everything slammed to the side. Grab that mid-tone. Look what happens. What? All that stuff is in there. Hit OK and finish your optimization. So these are things that I hear a lot of problems with, or hear a lot of people struggling with, and it's super easy. That's why I wanted to kind of do it twice there for you. Let's do another one. Let's take, we're going to do this. Another London trip stuff here. So got this cool shot of Big Ben, and I got this eyesore sitting over here, right? So I'm going to grab my lasso tool here, and I'm going to kind of mouse around the image I want to get rid of. And I'm going to give Photoshop a little room right here. You can see some space in between it. If I go to the edit menu, come down to fill, I can fill with content aware. Your Photoshop document or your Photoshop itself should default right there, right? That should be the default fill. Just hit OK, and it's going to run through its little magic, and it's going to totally get rid of it. Does a killer job. Can get a little tricky when it's really complex areas and things around it, but super quick, super easy, works a lot of the time. So I wanted to show you that one first.
Hey, Dane, before you move on,
Yeah.
one of our listeners asked a question about, she said, what about pictures from cell phones? Are there any tricks to manipulating these?
So no, it was just, if you take your phone, your picture in your phone, in fact, that pub, it was a cell phone photo. This one is a cell phone photo. So it's just a JPEG, open it up. I will recommend this. If that's your main operation of getting photos or getting things to work with, take your picture, no problem, because cell phones these days take killer pictures, right? The resolution's super high and whatnot. Bring it into Photoshop and save it as a Photoshop document or a PSD. Rarely do you want to stay in JPEG. As I say that, I look and I have a JPEG file here. So this was my original. This is not the one I usually work with. But anyways, because the more times you open and close a JPEG, you're throwing pixels away. It's a lossy compression method. So it opens, it crunches down to create a small file size, and then it chunks detail. So the more you open and close, even just Xing it out, you don't have to like save it. And it's not only when you save the file, it's closing, saving, Xing out, whatever, it's always. So cell phones are no issues whatsoever. Shouldn't be anyway. All right, let's do another little thing here. So here's a Mardi Gras parade float thingy, right? And what I'm trying to do is see all the way to the edge. I want to remove these arms, people doing that. So there's a couple ways you can do it. You can use the healing brush tool stuff. You can use a patch tool. Let's try it this way. Let's try it both ways. Why not? We can do anything. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I grab the first one here under this little Band-Aid icon, spot healing brush. This is probably not my go-to on this, but let's see if it works, right? So the hardness is super hard. I'm going to soften it up. I'm going to make it bigger, right? So I got a bigger brush. Another little trick on that is when you are working with brushes in Photoshop, your right, square bracket key, your right one will make your brush size larger, and your left bracket key will reduce the brush size. Just helps speed the process up. So if I make it kind of large here and I click and drag, you can kind of see Photoshop, it made this edge for me so I can see what I'm going to affect. So if I do that, just leave it sit for a second. Did a pretty good job, right? Kind of looks like trees. No one will really know except this little anomaly going on. Make your brush size a little bit smaller. Hit that one more time, and it's going to go away. So that's pretty believable. If you wanted to mess with this one little piece, you can try that and get rid of that. So looks good. Hit this hand here. Maybe we just want to take all the people out of Mardi Gras, right? No COVID spreading here. So anyway, that's one way. The content aware fill, gee whiz, works the same way on this image, right? So just two different techniques to do something similar. All right, so now I kind of call this part the non-sexy Photoshop part. And the only reason I do is because it is it's the technical stuff that you got to know, right? So you have to know how to take this guy off this white background, because if you take a look at my layers, he's locked. It's on a white background. Now, this is sort of my workflow, right? So we would draw on paper a lot. I do it at a computer as well. I have a Cintiq that I'm working on now, but this is my old school fun way to do things. I'll draw it on paper. I might ink it on paper, could ink it in a computer too. But this one is inked on paper. This is a finished drawing on a white background, right? So scanned it in, boof, that's what I have. But if I wanted to take this guy and paint him up like we do for our full color graphics, what I first would do is remove just the black information from that background. So this is how I do it. A couple of ways to do it. But the way I do it I think is the one that gives you the best end result. I could just use my magic wand, click on the black and try to monkey with the little edges and get a good thing sometimes, sometimes not. That's why I just don't go there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unlock this layer. So if I double click it, hit OK, my little lock disappears, right? So I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to put it underneath my artwork layer, and I'm going to hide the art just for now. My background layer is selected. I'm just going to choose like a neutral color. I mean, not whatever you want. Just grab something in a neutral range, grayer side, something that I can see where my black pixels are, where my white pixels are. It's the only reason I'm doing this. And I didn't choose straight gray because sometimes the gray will trick your eyes and you don't really catch all the blacks and all the whites, right? So if you make it any kind of color that's desaturated like this, it seems to help. At least it does for me. All right, so put it in the background. I'm gonna grab my new thing here. And what I wanna do now is go to my effects icon here at the bottom. And I have my blending options at the top. So I'm gonna select it. I'll get this window. This window is rather large. So I'm gonna have to kind of move it around a little bit because they don't really let you change sizes, but I can do this. I'm just drag it off screen. And what I'm looking for is like this blend if slider here, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab, it says blend if gray. So I'm gonna grab this triangle and I'm gonna move it. So as soon as I moved it, you see what's going on, right? So I can see my background color now, and now I can see some little white fuzzy anti-aliased pixels around the black. So I'm gonna keep moving it a little bit. I don't wanna like use this full on. If you notice like my triangle way over here and I'm looking around and I don't see any white pixels, that's pretty good, but I wanna kind of come back a little bit. I wanna move it to where as soon as I see no white pixels, I'm gonna stop, right? So I'm gonna stop here. But now if I hold my Option key or the Alt key on your PC and split this little triangle apart, I can push it a little bit more. And what that does is it kind of half affects the edge, right? So I can get most of the white pixels done with both triangles, and I can fine tune it and smooth out the little bit that's left here and there that way. So if I hit OK to this looks pretty good. If I turn my, my background layer off, you can see that it's now on transparent background, right? But one more thing you have to do to make this thing a workable file. So since we blended it, we did an effect to it in Photoshop. And if you notice this thing over here on the right, this little icon on that layer, that tells me that there's been an effect that's been put on here. You will get those if you use a hue saturation adjustment layer, things like that. All those will add these little icons. The problem is they don't always translate when you want to make this a PNG. So all you got to do is create a new layer, right? I'm going to put it underneath my artwork layer like this. Click on the artwork layer and just come over here and say merge down. I always just hit Command E, as you can see that shortcut there on the right-hand side of that menu, or Control E on your PC. Just go ahead and do that. And then now this is a regular file, a layered file. I can save this now as a Photoshop document, right? And add multiple layers. I can paint underneath this guy. I can paint above him. I can use him as just a black and white image. Whatever it is that you want to do, that's how to take something line art wise off of black background. I use this thing all the time. That's why I like to show it, because I think it's pretty powerful. Super, super accurate too. So, all right. So the next thing what I want to do is we're going to go from this and we're going to use an image. I think I mentioned it earlier. Maybe I didn't, but there was Miguel attended our last week's webinar, and he sent me an email. He said, hey, I'm struggling. I got this job from a customer. I don't know how to take this guy off this black background. So here it is, PNG. I'm going to go ahead and open it. So this is an actual file from one of the attendees last week, right? So I think it's pretty cool. This is a cool looking engine. It's very gray, and that's where the difficulty comes from. So if I go to my channels and take a look, you know, it's an RGB file, which is great. There's my red, my green, my blue. What I want to do though is I need to take the pixels of this file off this background and put it on a transparent layer. And when we do that, that's going to let us print this thing on any color shirt we want, right? So here's how you do it. If I grab the bottom channel, right? It says blue clearly. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate it onto the new channel icon. I'm going to double click the name of it. And I'm going to name it mask. This is how I create my alpha masks, because in order to do this properly, you need to pull pixel for pixel off the back background and put it on a transparent background. So I jumped ahead. See, it happens even to the best of us. One step I forgot. So I'm going to Command Z that. How about that, huh? All right. So I made my I made my 1 copy. I want to make my 3 copies first. Okay. And now I have a blue copy, not a blue copy 2, Dane. Blue copy, green copy, and a red copy. Got that? We want to take all 3 alpha channels, the red, the green, and the blue, and duplicate them. Okay. Now all I want to do is click on that icon, and I'm going to hit Command I or Control I. I'm just inverting it. I want to be able to see my white background with black information. So I'm going to do like this, Command I, and now Command I. So I basically have the 3 channels. I just have them inverted, right? So what I want to do is I'll double click my red copy. I'll name it mask. Now we got something here. So now I'm going to apply the data, the color data that you see on the image in this image. All this color data, and that's not a lot of color, I get it, but it's data. It's gray values on the red, the green, and the blue channel. We need to combine those on the 1 channel. The white letters need to be combined on that channel as well. So is the red striping and whatnot. So here's my mask layer. I'm going to go to Image menu. I'm going to come down to Apply Image. And I'm going to apply my green. It's going to go up 1. I'm going to kind of move this over here so you can see the change there, right? It's gotten darker because I've added the information from the green to my mask channel. Now I hit OK. I do the same thing again. Image. I'm going to come down to Apply Image. And I'm going to do this. Go to blue copy and hit OK. And you see my image now is much darker, right? All the gray matter that's on those 3 different channels are now on 1 channel. So now I can throw away my blue copy channel and my green copy channel because we just needed body parts from them and we stole them already. So they're useless to us. So at this point, we can do some cleanup if we want to, but I'm not going to worry about it for just the sake of this. But what I would do if it was my job there, Miguel, I'd probably clean up this little mess here and erase this out and this little random stuff that doesn't seem to be very important. So now I'm going to click over here, go back to my RGB channels. I'm going to go to my layer and I'm going to go to my select menu. I'm going to load a selection. You see my mask is sitting there. I'm going to load it as a new selection and I hit OK. All right. So what I want to do though is if you see something like this, it's going to grab the background. I don't want to do that. So let me double check, see what I did here. If I click on a new channel, yeah, I double click it. Okay. This is what I did something to get ahead of some here, but because I should have showed y'all this the first go around. I know this sounds like it's my first day on my job. I kind of know what I'm doing, but I wanted to do this because I've changed mine 20 years ago and I don't look back. So in Photoshop, if you've never fooled with alpha channels and you wanted to do this, the whole steps I just showed you, create a new alpha channel, click on the new channel, double click the icon and go to selected areas and hit OK. You want it to look like that. So now I'm going to throw this away and I'm going to double click on this. It's masked areas. So I'm going to go to selected areas because it will be selected areas if you do that step first. Sorry. Right. So go to my layers. Whoops. Choose these. Go to my layers. Select my image. Go to load selection. Load my mask. Hit OK. Now you notice it doesn't have the background. It's selecting just the art. That's what it should look like. And now if I just hit Command J or Control J on your PC, it'll take that information off and put it on its own channel, right? So it's not finished yet. What I like to do is while this artwork layer is selected, if I go to the layer menu, come down to matting and go to remove black matte. It's going to get rid of a little bit extra fuzz that wasn't necessary. So now if I put my background back on here and hit my D key, is going to give me my foreground color, black and white, and then just fill my background, right? I just hit Option Delete or Alt Backspace on your PC, and there's your image, right? If I turn this background layer off, my artwork is pixel for pixel. Now you still see some transparent checkers through this image. I'll zoom in a little bit for you, because this image is very transparent, right? That's how they got this dark gray image on a black background. But in order to print that, we have to push that information back, or when you create it anyways, like they did, or you just pull that gray pixels for pixels the way they are on the background, just so you turn it off. If you see all the black areas, like right here where my cursor is, these checkers are 100%. You see them clear as day. That's because that's the black of the shirt that's going to show through. And when I turn my layer back on, you can see that. So it's not going to print black ink anywhere. It's the black of the shirt that's going to give us this entire look. Now, a couple of things. One more thing I might try, if I turn off this layer, it's probably ready to go right now. Save it as a PNG, you're good. But if you notice, if I zoom in here, there's a little gray around these words. So one way to fix that is to grab your, tragic wand tool, as Scott Kelby calls it. My magic wand tool, or the tragic wand tool. This is the only time I would use this tool because I'm not a big fan of it. So if I click on here, on the right layer, deselect, choose my artwork layer. Now click on the white areas, right? I can do this. I'm just trying to grab this pretty quick here. That looks good. So what I'm going to do is just get rid of that gray outline. See I grab the white up to this gray. If I go to select menu, this is probably not necessary. This is the next step I would do if you want to up your game, right? Because those little grays you may or may not see on your print, but if you don't want them there, it is the best way to get rid of them. So I'm just going to go ahead and expand it, and that's about, I would say 4 pixels maybe. Let's take a look, see? Yep, see that 4 pixels covers just that gray area. My foreground and background colors, if you notice down here, are black and white. If I hit the X key, now if I hit Option Delete or Alt Backspace on my artwork layer there, it just fills that extra little bit with white. Do like this, turn my background layer on, and we're good to go. So turn the eyeball off, and now go File, Save As, set your stuff up as PNG, and you'll be in good shape. That's how I would handle this file in this type of thing, right? I cover that in detail in my book. I show you how to do other white background stuff, faded edges, hard, difficult things. So, all right, guys. So that wraps up about our half-hour short one here today. Any questions?
Dane, did you make the viewer wait till this week to get that, or did you did you already tell him how to do it?
I did not. I told him that where to try to look to find it. I didn't think I was going to have time, so figured I'd show him this week. So
perfect.
He waited a week to watch me do his file. Sorry, Miguel, but I hope it helped out, buddy.
you get paid the big bucks for this, man.
Well,
All right. Well, Jay, do you want to talk a little bit about Dane's book?
I do. I want to be able to have Dane talk a little bit about his book. I think that there were a few points there where, I'm not a Photoshop expert. I know my way around enough to be dangerous. But I could see how valuable that book would be, because there's several times in there, Dane, where you weren't going fast for you, but for me, kind of a newbie, I was like, oh yeah, if I could have seen that and then watched a few steps in the book, right, I would have totally been able to follow it along and said, yeah, I got this. So right. I think that book is just tremendous. You and I were talking offline earlier, and I was thinking, where would you go to get 30 years of experience for $100?
Right. And let's bear in mind too that this is specific to garment decorating. That's the key. That's the critical part.
And let me go one level deeper, Terry. Not only is it specific to garment decorating, but Dane has weeded out all of the BS in Photoshop that you're never going to use anyways.
Right.
So he's literally taken the 90% of the fluff that apparel decorators usually don't need, and he's drilled down even deeper on the 10% you have to master.
Right.
So I'm just like, I just hope that some of you that are tuned in today will recognize the value. We're not here to pitch books. We're not here trying to sell you a training guide. Yeah, yes, we are, but that's not the point. The point is, this was one 25-minute little wow moment. There were 2 times you saw me. That was me who typed in wow and amazing, because I was sitting here thinking, oh my God, the time savings, right? And the outcome. I kept thinking about the print. I kept thinking about the emotional connection that people have when they see that shirt or that tote bag or that hoodie, and they're like blown away, right? They're emotionally taken. So Dane, you created that bridge because of your experience and your talent in Photoshop. So that's really the emotion.
I enjoy this teaching part almost as much, maybe even more actually, than I do the art part. And that's my whole life. So the art's always been my favorite, but this part is, here's the part I don't like. Not that, I mean, no offense to my 2 buddies here, but that's the only 2 faces I'm seeing, right? I don't know how many of you guys showed up. And I like to do this stuff in a seminar room. I want to see people. So hopefully, God willing, we go back to those. Because
you don't need to see the same people you see at every trade show and the same 2 guys. Is that?
Well, I see y'all. We have a beer or 2, and then I see a whole bunch of new people in my class. That's the part I miss.
Yeah.
Dane,
first of all, I want to say I would love for our viewer who owns this artwork to send us a picture of this print, because I think it's going to look incredible on a shirt. Second of all,
I do too.
Yeah. Second of all, we did have someone ask, is there a place to get Photoshop other than Adobe that might be a little less expensive? Any recommendations there, Dane?
So actually right now, no, it doesn't exist unless you can find a CD copy somewhere in existence on eBay or something. Adobe will, no, they will lease you just Photoshop. Maybe I don't know if they're still at $10 a month. They had like a photography plan that was $9.99 for Photoshop and Lightroom. That's it. They didn't get Illustrator and Acrobat and all this other stuff. But it's sometimes you can go to Photoshop and it's either $10 or $19 a month for that. But
Miguel says, by the way, it's $10.
They do have it?
Miguel says it is $10.
There you go. So I think it's 100% worth the $10, guys. If anybody on here listening is a Corel Draw user for your vector program, cool. I got no problems with that whatsoever. I'm an Illustrator user, but Photoshop works with your Corel hand in hand, totally fine. Photoshop is where the world is. Now, I get the fact that it's expensive, and I'm not happy about it. I pay $53 a month per seat for a few seats, and I'm not thrilled about it. But there's, it is the way it goes. I mean, it's part of doing business. But Dane, for $10, thanks, Miguel, for that, by the way.
Yeah, there you go. We appreciate that.
There you go.
I was going to say the same thing, but you said it so well, so I won't repeat. I think it's worth it. I think for under $20 a month, if you're being serious about your craft, about your business, about the growth, about the outcomes, this is something you need to factor in. And I think that price point is not something to worry about. People often ask about a substitute, something other than Photoshop, like Lightroom or Photo Paint. Are there any substitutes in your mind, Dane, or are they just inferior?
And also, Dane, someone asked along those lines about Photoshop Elements as well.
Yeah, so there is a substitute in my mind, and I will never 100% switch to it because what I do for a living requires Photoshop, right? But there is a program out there that is doable. It is 90 to 95% of everything that you want to do as a digital printer. There's a caveat, by the way.
But you're not going to tell us. That's the caveat.
I'm going to tell you exactly what it is. In fact, I'm working on
it. Is it in your book?
It is going to be a book. So here's the deal. For you guys that showed up, I mean, I write books. I learn from a book. A lot of people don't. I get it, right? So that's why we do these videos. That's why I do my seminars. We're working on 2 more books at the moment. Literally, there'll be a third that I'm adding, and the third is going to give you the substitute because that's going to be it.
Okay.
So we're doing right now we're working on a dye sublimation book. with Photoshop and a screen printing artwork book. And the next one is going to be on Affinity Photo. That little app, I call it little. It is not little. It is powerful. It is $50.
Affinity,
time.
like AAFF?
AFFIN, yeah, Affinity.
Okay.
And if you go to the App Store, it may still be on sale for 50% off. So for $24, it's rock solid. The caveat I'm going to mention is it doesn't have a lot of strengths in alpha channels for screen printers. So if you're not screen printing and we're printing on a DTG, then yeah, you're good. And it does not have the simple text enveloping tools
Oh, okay.
Pro have. But if you can create your design there and just bring in your images from it, it is a rock solid program, guys, at 24 to $50, wherever it is now.
Wow. I bet Adobe loves that.
I've done a few seminars. I got a few more seminars and things lined up the rest of the year if we go back to trade shows, because I'm pretty excited about it. It's awesome. And it's a one-time pay. Can't beat that.
Super cool. Well, listen, somebody just chimed in and said it's still 50% off until the 20th. So you've got days to act.
If you're interested, it's worth it. Absolutely.
I think
Dave, before we get out of here as well, I just wanted to say that there are a lot of thank you very much, great information over here in the chat. So just wanted to share that with you.
I was just going to say the same thing. Thank you for beating me to the punch, Terry. That's why you are on. Also, I want to make sure that other folks can follow this. First of all, here's a picture of these two winners. So we've got both on the left-hand side, we've got a copy of our custom branded artwork DTG printing. This is your guide. This is how to create artwork for DTG printing by Dane. So if you thought the steps that you've seen here today were powerful, this is what, a couple hundred pages, Dane, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes. So
like 100? It has everything you need to be able to feel like, okay, I got this. And it's step-by-step instructions. It's got visual, it's got examples. You know, sometimes we need to be able to practice a couple of these steps more than once before we're going to feel comfortable. So that's what I would do. And I would say for under $100, you can't go wrong. And of course, the digital art products that you have are also on our website.
Right.
I almost said the other thing, and I know you guys giggled. I was trying to say there are digital art collections.
I would just killed you.
No, I didn't say it. I didn't say it. You can explore some of the pre-ready-made graphics that Dane has already done that are just tuned in and perfect. We print them all the time. You'll see us at shows. We'll do them for, you know, perfect for schools, perfect for churches, perfect for fundraisers. So many options there. So take a look at those on our website. Don't want to turn this into a total commercial, but we would just not be doing you a favor if we didn't remind you that those are 20% off and you get free shipping. So that's going to be something that ends tomorrow. So please take advantage of that. Visit our website. If you have any questions, you can, of course, find Terry. You can email Terry. You can call Terry. You can knock on his door and go, Terry, whatever it takes. And, but Terry, are there any other points to make? Anything I forgot to say?
Just a couple of things here. I just wanted to say that Rachel Keener said that she purchased the 4 digital stock art graphics and the book here and says it's amazing. Janice posted that Affinity right now is Windows is $24.99, iPad $9.99, and Mac $24.99. Somebody asked, where can you find Affinity? It's just in
Serif. So the company that makes it is called Serif. SERIF.com, and that's their main website. Good stuff. Really,
I was going to start a new company called Sans Serif as opposed to that.
I think it might have been Helvetica. I don't know.
What the Helvetica are you guys talking about? To Carol, the question is the book hard copy? It is bound. It is a physical book. It's technically a paperback, but it's spiral bound, and it's well done. The content is gold.
Right. It stays flat on your desk so you can use 2 hands on the yard. That's how I learned. And just so you guys know, it's a few months back down the road, but we are working on video training courses for every book I have. So we're going to.
Oh, that's exciting news. Well, then that gives
a go-to source.
Gives us something to look forward to, Dane. We appreciate your time.
Yeah,
we thank
working
you.
On them, so.
We did get, I can't tell you, 10 or 12 at least, people saying thank you, great lesson, awesome, fantastic. So the feedback is there. We know that it was valuable. We're grateful. We're excited. Terry and I kicked this off now. It's almost been 3 months ago where we sat down and we were like, what are we going to do? And the only thing we can both think of is we've got to present more training. This is the perfect time to go all in on training. So if you haven't yet reached your 100% again, let's say you're down 50% in sales, 40% in sales, whatever. I hope it's not a lot, but the reality is it's probably something. That's why these lessons are so valuable. And that's why you can take advantage of this time and practice this. Grab that, that book, that guide, and dive in and create something. Be proactive, make some cooler files, add some, better versions of your own logo. If you look at our Equipment Zone logo, that's what reminded me. Rather than just a flat stock, vector logo, look at what you can do in Photoshop. That Equipment Zone logo with I call it chrome and crackle. It's got these cool effects on there that are done because of Photoshop.
Right.
So anyway, guys, you're the best. Two of the OGs of DTG printing. For those of you who don't know, I know for a fact that Dane knows his way around an Epson DTG printer. Let me just say that.
Very well, actually.
All right, guys. Well, let's end on a good note. Appreciate you guys. Have a great rest of the week. Everyone who tuned in, we appreciate it. And you can always go back. Guys. You're welcome, Dane. You're the best.
You're the man.
Thanks,
Great Dane.
See you there.